Hey guys, let's talk about how you can lower your rent payments. It really sucks when all of your income is going towards your rent and you barely have anything left. I have 6 hacks to share with you. Most of them I have used myself at some point in my life, saving over $30,000 in the process that I later on put into buying my first condo in Toronto. And don't worry, it doesn't involve moving to another city or country, although sometimes that can be a good idea too. The first one is something that you can implement immediately and save thousands of dollars over the years. And here's how it works. Instead of paying your rent directly to your landlord, use a credit card to pay your rent. And it's really simple. You can actually pay your rent using your credit card on this platform called Chexy. This way, you get to earn all of the rewards and cashback from using your credit card. Ideally, you use a high cashback credit card like Scotiabank's Momentum Visa Infinite card that pays 4% cashback. Even after Chexy's fee of 1.75%, you'll earn the difference of 2.25% cashback. On a rent of $2,000 per month, that's $45 saved each month or $540 per year. And just to illustrate how this adds up over the years, an extra $500 per year saved on rent and invested into the stock market at an average growth of 10% will be worth almost $8,000 in 10 years and almost $30,000 in 20 years. Even just $300 per year saved on rent and invested would be worth almost $5,000 in 10 years and $17,000 in 20 years. And here's how it works. 4 days before your rent is due, let's say $2,000, Chexy will automatically charge your credit card. Once your rent is due, Chexy will pay your landlord via Interact e-transfer or recently even pre-authorized debit. The Chexy wallet where your money is kept is like a regular bank account with all the bank account details. You can download a void check and give it to your landlord, and to your landlord it will appear like a payment made from any other Canadian bank account. It's an easy tweak that will make a huge difference over the years. And pretty soon, Chexy will even allow bill payments like utilities, condo fees, and parking to be made via credit card too, something I'm waiting for. So if you want to start saving money on your rent, you can sign up for Chexy by using my link in the descriptions below. The next saving hack is a seasonal hack that you should get started soon. Rent prices peak in the summer because of the high demand from college graduates and families moving after the school year. So when you hunt for an apartment in the winter, you'll have a better chance at getting a lower price. In general, people are lazy to go out and find new rentals when it's freezing cold in the winter. More homes stay empty in the winter and it can be tougher for landlords to find tenants, but that could work to your advantage. I'm not saying that it will get super cheap, especially in expensive cities like Toronto and Vancouver, but comparatively, in the winter, it may be easier to negotiate a slightly lower price than in the summer. The third hack is something I did myself. 6 years ago, T, my husband, and I moved to Toronto into a tiny 325 square foot studio apartment, which at that time we were so lucky to get for just $1,100 per month, including heat. And it wasn't an easy decision at all. We just moved from Jakarta, where we lived in a 2-story house with 3 large bedrooms on a 2,000 square foot plot with a garden and 3 parking spots. We had money saved up, and the easy choice would be to just rent a comfortable 2-bedroom apartment. But we decided against this. We thought about what this seemingly small decision would do to our finances. And I'm so glad that we decided to get by in this small studio apartment. By making sacrifices, living in a smaller space for almost 5 years, we saved at least $6,000 per year or almost $30,000. That's almost $40,000 after compounding interest. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was actually a very cozy space. We learned to downsize everything: furniture, clothing, other belongings. We bought less stuff and saved even more money. And we knew that it wasn't forever, but just a temporary savings measure that would pay out large in the future. It's not an easy decision, but if you're really set on reducing your rent payments, consider downsizing your living space by -1 bedroom compared to what you would normally need or want. And I know that these days you won't find a studio apartment for $1,100 anymore, but even shaving down your rent costs by just $300 to $500 compared to what you're paying now will snowball into a lot of money over the years. The next thing is something I did when I was still employed working in banking. Like many young professionals, what a word, I wanted to live in my own spacious 2-bedroom apartment, paying way more rent than what was healthy for my finances. I was paying $1,800 for rent, and as a single person, my second bedroom was unoccupied 99% of the time, except for the 15 minutes or so each morning I used it to exercise. And it was such a waste. Luckily, a year before I quit working in the corporate world for good, I came to my senses and decided to rent out that second room to a friend for about $800, and that instantly saved me almost $10,000 that year. That friend was responsible and he always paid his rent on time, but I couldn't have imagined what it would have been like with roommates who were tardy, because I'm someone who really hates having to remind other people to pay. So hack number 4 is to share an apartment. Either rent a place together with a friend or rent out your second room if you have one. If you decide to rent a place together, you can also use the rent splitting function on Chexy. Basically, everyone sharing the place signs up to Chexy, then Chexy will charge each person's credit card, let's say there are 3 people, and combine that into a single transfer to send to your landlord, so you can spare yourself the headache of collecting people's rents each month. Some of you watching might think that this only makes sense for single people with no kids, but now let me share with you another story. Decades ago, my parents actually rented a house together with another family. So we all lived together in this big house, but each had their separate living spaces. That's something to consider because renting a house is oftentimes cheaper on a square foot basis. And again, I know these kind of decisions are not easy and they're not the most comfortable ones to make, but I think it's worth considering these at least as a temporary solution, say for 2 to 3 years or so, to stack up some real savings and to let that money grow. You can always move back to a more ideal place later on. And by the way, if you're looking for a place to invest your money, consider using Wealthsimple. That's the app that I use, and you can find the link in the descriptions down below. The next hack is something I did during my college years in Germany. I was studying in the city of Heidelberg. Beautiful, but also one of the most expensive cities in Germany. I wish I could rent a pretty apartment in the old town of Heidelberg, or Heidelberg, which is the German pronunciation, where I could just walk 2 minutes to the lecture hall in the mornings. I just couldn't and didn't want to afford it. So instead, I rented a studio apartment a 30-minute straight bus ride away from the city core in a town called Neckargemünd. So yes, I had to wake up much earlier and make sure that I didn't miss the bus that only departed every half hour or so. But I saved again thousands of dollars over the years. And to bring this to Canada, hack number 5 is to move to the outer ring of the city where rents are still cheaper. If you work in Toronto, rent in Scarborough, Etobicoke, North York, even Mississauga. The key is to rent a place that's almost next to or across a subway or train station, or maximum 5 minutes away from it. So even if your new place is further away, you can still reach the city center, if that's where you're working, in less than 30 minutes. You can take the GO train from Port Credit in Mississauga to Union Station in less than 30 minutes. The same can't even be said for taking the 501 along Queen Street. The next thing is something I also did to pay less rent, which is to rent a walkout basement. A regular basement apartment is usually completely underground, and although many people, including some friends of mine, have happily lived in basement apartments, and many are gorgeous, to be honest, I'm not a big fan. But walkout basements are different. A walkout basement is a basement with a door and sometimes window that opens directly to the outside, the backyard for example, usually because the ground at the back of the house is sloped. So the basement is at basement level from the front of the house, but it's ground level in the back of the house, which makes it much brighter and easier to walk in and out of compared to a regular basement. These are usually still cheaper than regular ground level apartments, and oftentimes you'll even pay less for much more space. Many people nowadays need to spend 50 or even 60% on rent, which makes it almost impossible to save and invest money. But if you could just reduce your rent expenses to around 30% of your income or even less, just for a couple of years, you can quickly save up some money, hopefully $20,000 or $30,000. After that, you can go back to a more ideal living space, but then at least you'll have some investments working for you. If you haven't started investing but want to know how, then watch this video next. Also, don't forget to check out my link for Chexy to start saving money on your rent.